are all due to appear on Whistle Test sometime between now and the end of the series in June. And even the music papers are beginning to take notice of the likes of Green on Red, True West, the Long Riders and the Rain Parade. And there's plenty more where they're coming from, man. Our man in California, Richard Skinner, has the details.
Ah, Los Angeles, the Hollywood sign, Beverly Hills, Sunset and Vine, margaritas by the pool, a dodgy Hawaiian shirt at the wheel of a Coupe de Ville. But if that's how you still view the Los Angeles music scene, then now might be the time to change your mind, because there's a renaissance of music here in LA that, quite honestly, looks like it's going to equal the big explosion of talent back in the 60s. The surprising thing is that if you turn on the radio and listen, a lot of the bands actually sound rather familiar. Leading this revival of psychedelic sounds from the unlikely setting of a Jesuit college in LA is a student radio station.
All right, you're lined up on the left here, 88.9 FM. You just heard True West with Too Many Steps to the Door. The Smiths in there with How Soon Is Now. And we opened that set up with the Minutemen and a song called Jesus and Tequila. I just want to remind you, you're lined up on the only alternative left in Southern California. 88.9 FM, KXLU. We're going to start off this set now with something from the Rain Parade.
Okay, Adam, what is this all about? Something new is happening in Los Angeles.
Yeah, something definitely new is happening. Here's a burst of energy, musical energy, so to speak, and it's breaking out all over. We've got bands like the Rain Parade and the Minutemen just making everything happen.
They call it the Paisley Underground, but what exactly does that mean?
I'd say Paisley Underground is just, you know, just a faction of the giant, you know, musical explosion that's happening in the city. Paisley Underground is just, you know, pretty much going back to the days of psychedelia, you know, the Byrds influence, the Mamas and the Papas, and it's certainly had an impact, especially here in LA with bands like the Rain Parade and Wednesday Week, you know, cool bands like that.
But all the bands are very different, aren't they? It's not as if they're all making the same noise.
Definitely. There's so much. There's the funk influence coming in, and of course there's always been the, you know, the hardcore punk aspect. But there's so much going on. It's just a giant eclectic pool.
If it's all happening, is it actually being widely recognized here in LA?
Unfortunately, here in Los Angeles, it's being almost ignored. You know, you turn on other stations, big mega stations that control, you know, 80% of the radio market here, the rock radio market. They have no idea of what's going on, and they really don't care about what's going on. They just want to see the dollar sign.
And it's the same story in the record stores, despite the efforts of several enthusiastic indie labels.
I would say this actual non-punk guitar-oriented stuff has been happening since about 80, when like Sid moved out from Kentucky, Sid Griffin of the Long Riders, and you know, people started playing in bands like that, the sort of 60s sound.
What turned you onto it?
It was different. I started out as a punk rock label, and it was just a different sound. As the people grew up and they became better musicians, they started playing different things and having different influences than the Sex Pistols and Buzzcocks and all that stuff. It's just the genesis of the whole thing.
It certainly seems to be a well-kept secret here in LA.
Basically, major labels have the record stores and the record industry tied up, and independent labels are, it's a labor of love, really. There's no money in it, and you're only going to sell from 10 to 15,000 records, and that's about it. Enough to cover the people's fans in the big cities, and that's about it.
One of Frontier Records' leading bands, currently gaining a lot of attention in Britain, is the Long Riders. Also exploiting the sounds of the 60s are the Prime Movers.
Show
Prime Movers are one of the bands whose records will be released in Britain soon as a result of a deal with Island Records. Their LA talent scout is a man who's known a bit of success himself, Ian Matthews. When did he first realize something new was happening?
I think late last year, when I really started to familiarize myself with all the new bands. I was making phone calls around the country trying to find out what was going on, and it dawned on me that all the good stuff that I was getting to hear was actually coming out of Los Angeles.
Now, what is going on in Los Angeles? Is it a revivalist thing or what?
I think it's yeah, to a certain degree it's revivalist, but to a greater degree it's dare I say a new wave.
A new wave.
It's sort of 60s sounding, but there's a lot more to it than that. They really have a lot of new things to offer as well.
And the diversity is there between all the bands. They're not all doing exactly the same thing.
No, Broken Homes are doing a sort of, like I said, a Stonesy kind of thing. Rain Parade are almost psychedelic.
Are you sure this is significant, though, as a scene? I mean, has it got potential, or is it just the British record industry grabbing at straws to keep afloat?
No. It's for real. It's as real as any other wave or scene that's come along. It's just, like I said before, it's in its baby stages, and it's going to take exposing. It's going to take exposing to the public.
All right, let's have that cup of tea, you promised.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the trendy place to be is exotic Madame Wong's. On stage, another of Ian Matthews' favourites, Thin White Rope. But the new LA music isn't all dreamy mysticism. The Pontiac Brothers have been accused of reviving the early Rolling Stones.
Well, I don't really think we're part of any, like, revival of anything that I know of, you know? I mean, if people want to lump us with something and make take our pictures or whatever, and for that, that's, you know what, that's up to them. But I don't consider, you know, myself part of any revival.
We did start as a sort of a joke thing. We were a Stones revival thing, you know, just like all this anti-rock and roll crap going around. Well, we were a rock and roll band, you know. That's our thing, you know. And we picked the Stones just as a moniker, I guess. But anyway, we've gone beyond that. You know, they're obviously an influence, but
well, that's what people want. We just wanted to do something and get some free beer, you know. We did like a one-show throwaway and then didn't do anything. And
when was this? When was this? When did it
This is
start?
about 2 years ago, I would say.
We just got together at a bar and said, these people give us drinks if we get up here and make assholes of ourselves.
You know, we've been through the punk rock, post-punk, every other thing that came out of England or New York or wherever. You know, we've been through all that. You know, like you always come back to what you originally like. You know, whatever turned you on to begin with to get into this whole thing, and that's what we're into. You know.
across town at one of LA's most fashionable clubs are the Rain Parade, key representatives of this strange movement called the Paisley Underground.
It's sort of just a term which became used to describe the new era of bands in Los Angeles in the early 80s. And some of them had, like, psychedelic sounds, and, a vast array of sounds were brought into one place. And somebody coined the term Paisley Underground, and it stuck.
It certainly gives the impression of being a load of hippies, sort of latter-day hippies emerging again or something.
Well, it's a false impression, actually.
Is it all revivalism? Is there a basis of revivalism in it?
Well, what's important about it is that it's a new synthesis of influences. As every era goes on in the great cycle of rock and roll, there's a new sort of, a new synthesis of music that is unique in its own right,
At what stage did the songs start coming for you? I mean, your own songs, as opposed to maybe starting out as bands do, covering other things.
That's why we started. We wanted to write our own stuff. And I think that's the one thing that ties all these people together is a desire for serious melodic songwriting. If anything does tie them together besides their proximity. I mean, I'm sure all the accountants in Fontana know each other too. And we're musicians in Los Angeles.
But it's not just Los Angeles either. It's really all of America right now. It's really brewing. There's something bubbling under. We've been around a few times, and you see in like every small town you go to, there's a music scene, and like
a lot of great bands, lots of them.
Yeah, you walk into like a dive in Kent, Ohio, and there's like 1 million kids hanging out, and there's great bands. You can take a tape recorder around the country and become a millionaire.
What's the name of that band?
The lyrics have been described as soft psychedelic visions. It's a wonderful phrase. It begs the question.
Sounds good, huh?
It does, doesn't it? Yes, but it begs the question, psychedelia, whatever it is, I mean, is tied in or has been tied in with drugs, and do you feel that that's anything to do? Do you take the odd LSD trip or something along the way?
Well,
music is really the only drug, I mean, everybody can do what they want, you can explore, but you got to be able to feel, to listen to music, to make music, and so I think sometimes drugs can, in the long run, take away from that.
Acid's like Cleveland, once you've been there 20 times, you really don't want to go back.
No easy way to easy way down. No easy way down. No easy way down.
Richard Skinner and a lot of guitar-oriented groups, as they seem to call themselves, from LA. What a curious bunch of people. Robyn Hitchcock, what would you do if you were faced with a character called Adam Bomb? What do you say to these people?
I'm a bit impatient.
He speaks well of you too. We're about to see that video anyway. This is Katrina and the Waves and Walking on Sunshine.